I'm Hillary Hendershot, your host, and this is the Retirement Years on Profit Boss Radio, episode 162. The Retirement Years on Profit Boss Radio is your weekly wealth building and retirement mastermind. Profit Boss is also a movement for women who want to reach their full wealth potential and be financially free. Let me be your guide as you defy the odds, take control of your money, grow your wealth, and retire well. Do you want the secrets of wealth and retirement to be yours? This is the place. I'm Hillary Hendershot. I'm a certified financial planner running a leading advisory firm for women and couples, and I'm sharing with you real stories from real life and real people who are making it happen. Forget Wall Street. You ready? Let's do this. As a preamble to today's interview, I want to let you know that I am once again giving away books. It is my mission to educate you. This book is fantastic. I can't wait to get it in your hands. Title of the book, Dollars and Cents, How We Misthink Money and How to Spend Smarter. My guest today is economist and comedian Jeff Chrysler, and his co-author is Dan Ariely, an award-winning economist and one of my most popular guests ever. For a link to my interview with Dan, go to hillaryhendershot.com/162. We are giving away copies of this book until they're gone. Jeff generously offered to sign them, which I thought was so cool. And he appropriately is holed up in a cabin in the woods, far away from the pandemic right now, at an address where we couldn't get Amazon to ship to him. So it's my mistake, wasn't able to make it happen. You're going to have to imagine the signature. Nevertheless, you're going to love this book. The instructions are, leave me an honest review on iTunes, and then go to hillaryhendershot.com/162 and fill out the form and request your copy. Without further ado, here's my interview with Jeff Chrysler. All right, everybody, Jeff Chrysler with us today. According to his bio, he's your typical Princeton-educated lawyer turned author, speaker, pundit, comedian, and advocate for behavioral science. So average, Jeff. He runs peoplescience.com, writes for TV politicians. We will forgive him for that. And CEOs, as well as sharing insights on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Sirius XM, and has toured most of the planet. He also just co-wrote a book with one of my most popular guests ever, New York Times bestselling author and economist Dan Ariely. In that episode, he and I discussed his book, Payoff, The Hidden Logic That Shapes Our Motivations. If you want to check it out, it's episode 45 of Profit Boss Radio. Jeff is here to talk about their new book, Dollars and Cents, How We Misthink Money and How to Spend Smarter. I'll be giving away copies of his book until they're gone. Thanks to Jeff for that. So to request one, please leave an honest iTunes review and then head to hillaryhendershot.com/162 to request your copy. Well, Jeff, it's a great time to be talking about money and emotions. Here we are, hopefully midway through the coronavirus pandemic and associated economic decline. And I'm not even sure it's possible to have a non-emotional thought about money. Are your friends calling you for advice?
Yeah, some are, and some know that I'll probably give them a scientific answer of, well, it depends. But yeah, this is definitely a time. Every financial decision in normal times is fraught with emotion because we don't ever really know what the right choice is. And now, obviously, emotions are even higher and the uncertainty is even greater.
It is. Add uncertainty to any emotional topic and you come up with a bunch of sort of head spinning around. What's the most popular question you're getting about money right now?
What should I do? Help, can I have some?
Can I have some money? So do you have a good pithy answer for what should I do?
I think that right now, more than ever, it's a bit of a take a deep breath. And I know that some ways people don't need to be told to try to see the big picture and all that, but it really does make a difference. In fact, there's a study that I published an article recently about on People Science, where they literally looking at people that took the opportunity to think of the big picture, think of a long-term view, think of sort of a 30,000-foot view, whatever your metaphor is about their financial choices, and in that case, made more rational ones. This is true all the time, but perhaps even more so now when, as we said, we're even more emotional, more sort of panicked. I mean, it's something like hoarding toilet paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is such an irrational thing to do, but we're trying to get control and we're seeing other people do it. Worried about missing out. And I think if we just took a moment to catch our breath, it's not like we missed the last toilet paper roll on Earth if we thought about it for a second and we realized we didn't need to do it. So in a big picture sense, taking a deep breath and thinking about bigger ideals will help.
That's good. I don't actually talk about toilet paper on my show often, but I think it's appropriate now. That and bottled water, right? Because we all know viruses lead to droughts. And and it's a lot like the advice I've been giving some clients who have been asking, how can I strategize getting into the market right now? Or, what should we do about, my IRA deposit from last year? Should we buy now or next week? And I say, really, it's about the size of that IRA deposit and the consistency with which you make it every year, not about whether we trade on this Monday or next Monday. And I think that complements what you were saying about take a 30,000 foot view. It's like, look, this isn't significant from the big picture perspective. So what was your inspiration, your and Dan's inspiration behind this new book?
So the way that Dan and I came together for anything was from my previous book, which is a satire. I want to be very clear, it's a satire called Get Rich Cheating.
I like it.
Yeah. Some may look at the news in the world and say, well, no, satire was a documentary, but that's part of it. But regardless, it was satire about about a culture of cheating, particularly about financial cheating, everything from steroids to Enron to showbiz and sports. And when that came out, Dan got a copy and he invited me to lecture at his class. And at the time, I was doing this character, sort of a Stephen Colbert meets Jim Cramer meets Tony Robbins, empowering people with the power of cheating. And I lectured at Dan's class at Duke business students. And I basically told them, look, cost benefit analysis. No one's getting caught cheating and you can make millions. And I talked to them about it. And there was always a small group of the class that would say, hey, it's not a bad idea. And this was like a light bulb moment for me because I'd never really heard of behavioral economics or behavioral science.
Really?
Dan's field at that time. And this was almost 10, it was many years ago, 8 years ago or so now. And I had always just sort of researched it using like common sense. I went and I had an economics degree and I had a law degree and I researched all these scandals. And my conclusion was that money messes with our heads. But then I started working with Dan and discovering his work and those of his peers. And I discovered like, that's not just sort of what I think, that there's a whole field of research supporting that. And I was just really smitten. It sort of crystallized a lot of the things I'd done throughout my career. And we worked on a few different projects. And then at some point, he said, do you want to help me with this book that he had on his plate? But he just didn't have the time to do. And I said, sure. And one thing led to another, and I sort of got a crash course in everything that's been written about the psychology of money. And it came out and it's done well, and it's opened some doors and hopefully help some people make better decisions, whether it's not to buy a sweater just because it's on sale or not to take out all their money from the 401k.
So I'm hoping it seems really serendipitous that the book came out and now you're watching current economic events unfold. So you really have this platform to educate people from an even-handed perspective. Look, this is what the data and the research say about the crazy things that we do about money. Do you find yourself in kind of a proselytizing role?
There's a bit of it. I mean, I've always hesitated in my life to really sort of give people advice like this is what you must do. And so much of this is sort of context driven, right? Not everyone has the same problems with their 401k. Some people are living week to week and others, it's about long-term planning. So there's no one size fits all, but there's definitely some sort of approaches and some of the traps that we fall into apply to everyone in different ways. I mean, something like the power of social proof, right? The fact that we will make a decision based upon what we think other people are doing. And it's not necessarily what they actually are doing, but what we think they're doing, particularly people in a tight peer group. And this comes up a lot if we at this time think, oh my gosh, everyone is, they're borrowing against their home or they're taking out money on their 401k or whatever it may be. If we think other people are doing it, that tends to be the reason why we take action when really we should stop and figure out if it's the best choice for us. But that emotional driver, that easy feeling of, oh, others are doing it, so I should do it too, is particularly dangerous at a time like now when, again, we don't know what to do.
Right. Why do our brains struggle so much to understand money? Why is it a topic that's so hard for us?
Because what makes money awesome is also what makes it so hard to understand. Money has all these unique features. Money is divisible. It's storable. You can, unlike the olden days, if you barter, you can put money aside and invest it. You couldn't do that with goods and services. Money is fungible, right? Any $10 that you have is the same as any other $10. It doesn't have to be represented by a certain bill. And there are other elements of it. And just the complexity of money is what's allowed us to do so many great things, but it also just makes it really hard to think about. And, there's one takeaway I want the listeners to have, or readers, whoever it is that everyone has trouble thinking about money. Um, Oftentimes, like, we don't ask for help because we think there's a stigma. We think we're the dumb ones. But like, I'll talk to like wealth advisor companies, and I'll go in and I'll talk to them about this. And I always share a story how their number one performer, the person who's the best at telling others what to do with their money, makes the most mistakes his or herself.
Is that right?
It's because it's emotional. It's because when I tell you what to do with your money, I look on a spreadsheet, or I look on a chart and look at some numbers, and it's just data. Here's your kid's future. Here's your retirement. Here's education. But then we ask about me. That's my retirement, my future. It's personal. So it's really, it's an emotional thing. It's a complex thing. And if I can give one more layer that's really sort of semi in the weeds, but ultimately the challenge of money is when you make a financial decision, what you're supposed to do, what the perfect rational person is supposed to do, and this person doesn't exist, is weigh the opportunity cost, right? Weigh what else you could do with that money.
The billions of other things you could do with it.
Exactly. And now or anytime, and that's just like that's impossible to do. Like, I to think of myself as a person that's smart, but that's way too much thinking. Like, oh, I could take this $5 latte and instead I could invest it in a fund and retire at age 17, or I could, there's a bunch of fun stories in the book about this, and Dan did some cool research. But the point is that's too hard to think about. So instead of even attempting that, what we end up doing is falling for sort of value cues or money traps or nudges, little things that lead us to think we're sort of making the right decision and think that we've gone through this whole opportunity cost calculation when we haven't. The number one is sort of sale prices, right? Sale prices make us think, oh, we got a great deal because we're, this $100 shirt is marked down to 60. I love this. I saved $40. It fools us into thinking we did the opportunity cost analysis when we really didn't.
Right, but it does feel good to think you got a deal.
It does. I mean, J.C. Penney, we talked about this again in the book, but just real briefly, J.C. Penney, their whole model of their store is to have inflated prices, but then a bunch of like sales and coupons and all this. They hired a new CEO at one point who said, this is stupid. Let's just give them the regular price. So they changed their pricing, and all their customers left because they're like, no, we don't want fair pricing. We want this game.
We want deals.
And then they fired that guy, put someone else back in who had this sales on again, and everyone came back. It's not rational, but it's human.
So funny how people can be manipulated like that. It's hard to think about. So people are at home and they're shopping for what they're shopping for. I do think there's a good amount of retail therapy happening right now. And one of your warm Amazon reviews, by the way, said, this is a book about helping people understand why they spend on what they spend on and helping them make better, more rational choices. And maybe you would articulate that as saying choices that better provide you happiness or utility, right? So what do you think people are getting most wrong now? Whether it's about spending or investing or the economy, what is this most messed up in terms of our thinking?
That's a challenging question, but what I would say is all of those that impact our long-term thinking, our self-control. Ultimately, self-control is about the fact that we don't connect to our future selves. We are much more emotionally connected to Jeff right now than Jeff in 20 years save for retirement, even Jeff in a few weeks. In fact, studies show that Jeff in the future is like, I think of that person as a totally different being. It's not me, it's somebody else. So anytime we have to make something that's about the trade-off for the future, we're inclined to do that very poorly.
Yeah.
And right now, that's even more so because a lot of us just don't know what the future is. Like whether that's, are we going to be working in 6 months or what are we going to be in 5 years? And so the temptations of the present are even more heightened. For some people, that's eating comfort food, or like you said, the comfort of shopping.
Yeah.
Getting something that feels good, as opposed to thinking about the future. But I would say, and we caution, there are times like our goal is not to have everyone be penny pinchers. There are times when buying that nice bottle of wine or buying that cake and eating it, so you got to take care of yourself sometimes. I would say pulling out all of your money from your retirement fund to buy a giant cake is a bad idea. But we don't want people to be miserable penny pinchers. We just want them to be aware of sort of why they're making the choices they are, so that then they're in control as opposed to the marketers or their emotions being in control.
Welcome to this week's MoneyWise segment designed to make you smarter than your neighbor. Today, we're talking about tax filing deadlines, specifically as it has to do with IRA contributions, eligibility, and deadlines. April 15th has now passed. Many of you missed that Congress extended the deadline to file your federal tax return, and 49 states followed suit, meaning most of you don't need to file your taxes, pay your taxes, or finalize your retirement account contributions until July 15th, 2020. Just a few reminders: retirement accounts like IRAs make saving for retirement much easier because contributions and therefore earnings are tax deferred. For 2019 and 2020, the maximum contribution is $6,000 unless you are age 50 or older, in which case you can make a catch-up contribution of an additional $1,000, so a total of $7,000 for you. You can only contribute what you earn. So, for example, if you're a full-time college student and you only earned $2,000 in your part-time summer job in 2019, the maximum contribution you can make to your IRA is $2,000. Previously, taxpayers who were 70 and a half years of age could not contribute to a traditional IRA, but as of January 1st, 2020, this age limit no longer applies. This really helps people save toward retirement as people are living longer and longer and therefore working longer. Typically, taxpayers have until the April 15th tax filing deadline to make an IRA contribution for the prior tax year. But in response to the coronavirus pandemic, the tax deadline for 2020 has been extended to July 15th. This means you have an extra 3 months to make an IRA contribution for 2019. Deadlines for SEP IRAs. SEP stands for Simplified Employee Pension. If you are a self-employed individual, you may qualify for a SEP where you can contribute up to 25% of net business income. Taxpayers can make a SEP IRA contribution as late as the due date, including extensions of the return. So in a typical year, if you file for a 6-month extension, you would have until October 15th to make your contribution for that tax year. To earmark your contribution for a particular tax year, simply walk it in to your custodian or let your financial advisor know right in the memo field section of the check for tax year 2019. Is there an example you can think of from the book that would give listeners a clear-cut idea of someone who was making choices that seemed rational to them at the time, but who, in understanding their own cognitive biases, were able to better make those choices so that they actually improve their own both current and potentially future situation?
There are numerous sort of examples, large and small. I'm trying to think if there's sort of the one hero of the story, and there isn't necessarily one superhero story, but there are people who, when it comes, retirement savings is sort of the easiest place to go because it's measurable, and so many people have worked there that people that have changed, even just from having the default option, right, the automatic withdrawal into your 401k,
The nudge.
right? It's a nudge. It's a system. I mean, ultimately, look, we can't change human nature. But we can understand our human nature so that we then create systems and environments and products so that we use our human nature to our benefit instead of having to be used against us. And in the retirement context, one way to do that is, you go in and you say, if you have a job, you're fortunate to keep your job these days, and you have your automatic money taken out each month or each paycheck. If you increase that, or if you say, every pay raise I get, I'm going to increase also the percent goes into my 401k, like setting that up once or twice so it's automatic instead of forcing yourself to make that decision every paycheck, it makes a gigantic difference. Ultimately, and there are plenty of people that were going every 2 weeks and saying, okay, it's up to me to write a check to put into an IRA versus it just automatically gets taken out of my paycheck and put into an account. The people that make that switch see just a dramatic increase, not just in their savings for the future, but an increase in their good behavior in the present. Because ultimately, like above a certain level of need, a financial need, like more money doesn't really change our lives. It's like you move into a bigger house and eventually you just have a bigger house and your life is the same. And it's the same with getting like a few $100s more a week. Again, assuming you're not struggling to pay bills,
Right.
it doesn't change that much. Like we can live on $200 extra a month instead of $300 and put that extra $100 in the bank if we get a raise. So the people that like have done that and have made that something again automatic have really benefited from it.
I would extend that into personal spending. So obviously saving is related to spending, but one of the things that was most powerful for me and that I teach now with my clients is to pay your overhead, your bills first, and then save, and then only spend what's remaining. So your rent, your memberships, your subscriptions are all paid, and then you quote unquote pay yourself first.
Yep.
And then what's remaining in your checking account is you can spend all of that and still be flush. And it really helps, but it's a nod to human nature, like how we naturally act with money. So, Jeff, what do you think is the solution to all the cognitive biases that we have? Anchoring bias, hindsight bias. These things really are limiting to us when it comes to understanding the world rationally. And I'm going to get this wrong, but the gist is right. Even the author of the book on cognitive biases, Daniel Kahneman, wrote an introduction in which he said, I wrote this book and I still suffer from cognitive biases. So knowing about cognitive biases doesn't solve for them. But at the very base, we need to understand the frameworks in which we make mistakes. Yes? So at least we need to understand what those are. Yes?
Yes. First step is definitely awareness. And then trying to create a system or a framework to get to better decisions.
Okay. And you can implement those frameworks at the micro level. So you can look at what are your own behaviors and create systems that supersede them. But just understand that we're human and we're subject to irrational choices.
Yeah. In some ways, that's why, when I said earlier, my one big takeaway is that everyone has trouble thinking about money. Sort of hand in hand with that is that like getting over that sense that you're doing something wrong, like accepting that we're human and we make mistakes. That's hard for a lot of people to do. It's been hard for myself to do. It's been hard. I'm not Daniel Kahneman, but for me to say I wrote a book about finances, yet I still make these stupid mistakes. I have to at first say that's the truth and accept that and say that's not a big deal in order to then get to the step where I do the work that needs to be done.
Right. Any systems or anything unique you're doing in your own financial life that you think is smart and contrary to the norm?
There are a couple things that I've recommended frequently because I've done them myself. And one is for people to, especially nowadays, a lot of people, most of their spending goes through their credit card because their credit card's tied to their phone and everything else is.
Right.
If you go through your monthly credit card bill with another person and you explain what and why each purchase was made, and a quick important caveat, don't do this with like a spouse or partner or
someone you just started dating.
Exactly. No, I mean, if you're not going to date for very long right off the bat. Do it with someone you trust, but is not, emotionally connected to your money. If you go through that, two things will happen. One is you'll start to see the expenditures that you have that are not really justified. And two is you'll start to see sort of your own patterns. And maybe you're spending too much on money. Maybe you're spending too much on dinners out or on clothing or whatever it may be. And that is a way to sort of help personalize whatever framework you might create, because everyone has different spending faults, right? The people that go to JCPenney for the sales, like I don't connect to them. That's not how I would be, but that's how they are. And so they should create sort of a system to address that. I have my own issues. So identifying those issues is a great first step that lends itself to sort of easy, immediate rewards. And the other thing I'd say to another suggestion that tags onto something you had just said about what's money left in your checking account is that we tend to think of our discretionary spending based upon our checking account, right? What we see at the ATM, what's on our phone app. We can sort of trick ourselves to spending less if we create another account, just a regular savings account. I don't mean a 401k, but it's a regular savings account. And each paycheck, we put a little money into that. That's still money that we can use if we need it. But then when we look at our ATM balance or we look at our phone and we see what our amount is in our checking account, that's what we think we can spend. Whereas somewhere else, we've put money sort of hidden it from ourselves. And that really makes a big difference in our behavior. Again, that money's there for you whenever you want it. It's not like there's an extra fee. You just have to hit an extra button or two on your computer. But that little step is a big deal. And again, if you're fortunate enough to still have a job, most HR departments can do that for you automatically each paycheck.
Right. And I saw a line in the book. I can't remember if it was a chapter head or something I read in one of the chapters, basically said people are irrational. They'll take $10,000 vacations, but they spend 20 minutes a day looking for parking.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about why that's irrational.
It's irrational because all of the $50s that we can save on parking over the course of a lifetime will never add up to a $10,000 vacation.
Is that right?
I mean, it's just, but what we tend to do is we tend to really stress about the small spends, right? Should I spend 10 cents more per pound on organic tomatoes? And we don't stress about the bigger spends, right? Should I'm buying a house for 500 grand and the contractor says, for $5,000, you can get this Italian marble thingamajig. And you're like, sure, whatever. Cause it's like,
seems trivial.
It seems trivial, right? It's an issue of what we call relativity, right? 5,000 off of 500,000 is, 1%. Whereas, 10 cents off of a 99-cent per pound thing is a lot more. And we get caught up in percentages when we really need to think about the absolute dollars that are going into or coming out of our accounts. And some of that is a function of that sort of percentage and aspect. And some of it's also just like buying a home or saving for retirement or college or buying a car or even a cell phone. These things are really complex decisions. And it's hard to think about all the different elements. So we sort of at some point cop out. When those are the places we really need to do the hard work. Buy the $5 latte, enjoy your life, buy the organic tomatoes if you want them. Don't worry about that. But, watch how much you're spending on undercoating for your car.
Can I circle back and ask you about get rich cheating?
Yeah.
Were you just ticked off that it seems like there's a lot of people cheating and winning?
Yeah. So I was writing a column for thestreet.com, which is Jim Cramer, Mad Money, for his website. It was a humor column and it was fairly popular at the time. And someone approached me with an idea. And I was also I was a political comedian doing political stand-up. And I was just sitting there and I remember I was walking with a friend and thinking about what might be a topic for something to write about. And it was the end of the previous decade. The Enron steroids decade. And I was just, all these people, CEOs, right? They drive their company into the ground and they get a $20 million golden parachute, which is actually a low number nowadays. And it just seemed like it was just cheating the system. I'll spare your listeners and I won't get into politics, but it just seemed to be everywhere. And it really struck a nerve with me, especially because I wouldn't say that I come from privilege, but I've had a fortunate background. Like I went to Princeton and I went to like a great law school, and I've been around people who are very fortunate in their lives, but sort of don't. I wouldn't say they're intentionally cheating, but there's a bit of like they've worked the system one way or another. And whether it's a personal drive or just following the news, I just felt like let's sort of just call this what it is. And I did it with a satirical take and a lot of jokes, and I got a good response from comedy people as well as money people. My hope was that even before I thought of dollars and cents, it would help people stop being tricked into spending money, and help people stop sort of idealizing those that had sort of cheated their way. Since Dollars and Cents came out, now I feel like it's of a whole. That first book was like, these are how other people are cheating you and tricking you. And Dollars and Cents is about how we are tricking ourselves.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'll check that one out too. So my takeaways from today's conversation are, it's very difficult for us to think long-term right now, and that what we ought to be doing is continuing our good, prudent, conservative financial behavior. Even though there's a lot of uncertainty, we are going to recover. And B, we can learn about our cognitive biases and put systems in place. And I think Dollars and Cents, there's several excellent examples of how people make mistakes. I think anchoring is the most fascinating cognitive bias ever, where people will guess the price of something is higher because the last two digits of their social security number are higher. It's like,
Yep. Yep.
really? So we can learn about those and put systems in place to supersede them. And one of those being we can expose our decisions to the light of day. We can talk about what we're spending on with a rational human being and kind of hear ourselves talk and think, gosh, it really doesn't make sense for me to spend on that thing right now.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a big thing from my background and what I've seen and experienced is that people just don't talk about money. We talk about how to get it and how to spend it. We compete on like what kind of car you have or where you go to college. We don't talk about saving and investing and all that. And we make a lot of assumptions. And I think the more we're able to talk about money with our family and our colleagues and our communities, the better we'll all be because we'll all learn about what's going on.
Great, Jeff. Thanks for saying that. I say that all the time. So thanks for the props.
Oh, cool.
All right. Appreciate the interview today.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Profit Boss. If after listening to today's episode, you think you might be ready to take meaningful actions with your wealth and perhaps consider working with me and my firm in some way, then I'd love to hear from you. Just go to hillaryhendershot.com/hello. That's Hillary with one L and Hendershot with two T's. .com/hello. When I'm not sitting behind the mic, I'm running Hendershot Wealth Management. We're a fee-only fiduciary financial advisory firm. We work with women and couples to take their finances to the next level. Everything I talk about here on the show gets personalized and put to work for my clients. So I ask you, why wait till tomorrow when you can start realizing your full wealth potential today? The life you want to live, it doesn't have to wait. Just imagine the freedom and joy you'll experience when you've secured your retirement and enjoyed the years leading up to it. That's what I want for you. That's what I do for my clients. And if that's what you want for yourself, just head on over to my website right now, hillaryhendershot.com/hello. All of our initial conversations are totally complimentary. So let's just see where a friendly conversation may lead. hillaryhendershot.com/hello. As we wrap things up here for today, I need to review with you the things I have to disclose as a fiduciary financial advisor offering wealth management services through my firm, Hendershot Wealth Management, LLC. You should know that the opinions I express on Profit Boss Radio are my own, and they can change. The content I provide in the show is for general education. It's not intended as specific investment advice, nor do I recommend any specific financial products. Unlike how I roll at home with my husband, I can't guarantee that my statements, opinions, or forecasts are always 100% right. Of course, I wish I could peek into that proverbial crystal ball, but so far, I haven't found it. Past performance is not indicative of future results. I talk a lot about indexes, and I want you to know you can't actually buy an index because, of course, when you take a list of companies and create a product that allows people to invest in those companies, there are fees and expenses involved that reduce returns. Remember, all investing involves risk, which, as you know, means you could lose your money. And I have to tell you that there is no guarantee that any investment plan or strategy will be successful. And that should keep my lawyers happy. Have a great day.